how to use the new habit tracker. This tracker update has some amazing new features that we can use to help you level up your performance, your health. It's going to be awesome for allowing us to cover as many metrics as possible to give us the best chance to help your performance. So what we're going to do is we're just going to run through how to use it and how you can get the most out of it. So let's start with our main screen. So we start on here. We've got our sort of home screen where you can just click on any of these and it'll take you straight to the tab. The other option is down the bottom here. You can just go through and click on them. So yeah, up to you what you want to use here. So our first section is our tracking section. So what we're going to do is you're going to come into our tracking section and you're basically going to work through this part every single day. So we'll run through everything that's in here and I'll show you how to use it all. But some of this will be for you to do and some of it will have things already in there. For example, the goal sections, if we're using them, we will already put like goals in there for you. Same here with your nutrition goals. If there's anything that we don't need, we can easily hide it as well. So let's say you're a male, you don't need the cycle tracker. We can easily just hide that. So that simplifies your tracker and it should simplify it down so that it's not super overwhelming. So weight, body weight. You're going to weigh yourself in the morning with as little clothes on as possible and after using the bathroom. First thing in the morning. Don't drink a heap of water. Don't eat, before you weigh yourself. Easiest way I find to do that is have your scales in the bathroom. So just have them in the bathroom. Usually you'll get out of bed, you'll go straight to the bathroom, use the toilet, and then weigh yourself. That's the easiest way. As I said, weight goal we'll have in there if we need it. Sleep, you can obviously put in there. Stress, scale of 1 to 10. If you're unsure about the scales as well, we can adjust them on here, but you can see it on here. So optimal, obviously low stress, 1, high stress, 10. Here we can change these numbers for your sleep goals. So for this one, anything 5 or less is going to be super low. Anything around 6 to 7 is going to be middle. And then anything 8 or over is going to be optimal. And you'll see that color coordinate. For our females, you can skip over this part. If you're a male, you don't need it. For our females, we've got our cycle tracker. So we can track all phases of our cycle here. You can see this nicely color coordinates. So we can see where we're up to in our cycle. We've got our follicular phase, proliferative phase, and our luteal. So we can easily track here and gives us the number of days. And then once we start bleeding again, menstruation, and then that resets. Cervical mucus. So this is something that we'll track. It tells us a lot about the health of our reproductive system and the health of our cycle. So we've got our 4 types of cervical mucus. We've got period flow, whether you're spotting, light, medium, heavy. Pain out of 10, again, 1 to 10. And that's going to color coordinate as well. So we can see when around your cycle, if you do have pain, how bad it is. And then if we are measuring body temperature, I'll run through this specifically with you. But that's something we can measure as well, which again tells us a lot about the health of our cycle. So if it's something in particular you do want to measure, let me know and we can. Otherwise, if it's necessary for us, we will measure it. Next up, we've got our steps. If we need to measure these, we can. We've got tracked and goal. Then we've got our nutrition. So this is, again, something that we can hide if we don't necessarily need it. But what we can do with our nutrition on here that's going to make it a lot more manageable, and we can get into the daily sort of nitty gritty if it's necessary, is tracking and having a goal for protein, carbs, fats, and calories every single day. So if that does need to change, we can. We also have our deviation on day to day from what we've what we've tracked versus what our goal was for calories. And then these couple are, again, going to be a little bit more complex. We can use them if we need to, but calories per kilo of body weight and protein per kilo of body weight. So play around with this and see how it works. Again, we can change these ranges depending on you and your goals. So steps, we've obviously got our ranges here. We've got our protein, we've got our carbs, we've got our fats, we've got our calories, and we can adjust that depending on you. Sick days, if you're sick, put it in there. It's just going to tell us a counter of how often we are sick, but also if there is any data that's skewed and we need to kind of know why, or it might give us a reason as to why some data might be skewed. Then our habits. So the main change here is our first 3 habits are going to go towards earning points. So we wanted to gamify tracking a little bit, make it more fun. And a way that we've done that is by using points earned on the tracker. So let's say we've completed our tracker every day. We're getting points here, points. You can see this starting to accumulate up here. And the other place that will go to is in here. So we can see clearly here how well you are actually, how many points you're getting each month, how well you're doing your habits essentially, on a scale of 0 to 100. The other thing that's changed as well, which is quite nice now, is we can actually measure a habit based on a percentage instead of just a tick or cross. So if you've done something, half as well as you possibly could, then 50%. You're going to give yourself 50% on that habit. These are 2 habits that I like to start with for a lot of people. Depending where you're up to, we will probably start with these and then get rid of them once they just become normal for you. We obviously have space here for more habits, so we can start to populate those depending on things that we are going to be focusing on. Then our KPIs. So these sections here are basically allowing us to track things to do with your health, your performance on a numerical scale. So for example, your gut health. We've got our Bristol rating, which we may or may not use. We've got our bowel movements. Again, you can see the ranges up the top here as to what we're measuring it based off. If these things are relevant, we'll track them and I'll give you more information on it. Cardiac, so heart health basically. We can track our resting heart rate. We can track our heart rate variability if you have the means to do so. Again, we don't have to track these things. We can get rid of them. We can simplify it if we need to. Hydration, we're just going to go off liters of water per day, with our rough equation for how much you need being 0.033 times your body weight in kilograms. So for me, it's somewhere around 3 liters of water a day. But just a good one to be able to track our water intake each day. We can also track electrolytes if we need to as well. There's a section here that I've hidden for sodium and potassium. So if it's relevant, we can track them. Then these, again, are just a couple of ones that I've added in here, but again, we can change, that I find are useful for most people and athletes to start on. So numerical ratings of our energy levels, 1 to 10, our sleep score, 1 to 100, and our fatigue levels, 1 to 10. So again, you can see here, energy, obviously we want that being high. So the higher the number, the closer to green. Fatigue, we want closer to 1, we want lower. So the higher the number here, the more red. And then our notes section, you can use this as much or as little as you want. If there's a note you want to take about that specific day, feel free. If there's, if you want to write notes in here every single day, by all means go for it. The more you use this tracker, the better results you're probably going to get. So definitely use this as much as you want. But if you find yourself rarely writing in here as well, then that's okay. We went through our points section, so we don't need to go through that again, but this will just be pulled from your first 3 habits. Our overview section. This has changed a little bit as well, but essentially it's going to give us a look at your year zoomed out and gives us a chance to look at things on a bigger scale. We can go through training phases. We can have our nutrition phases written in here. You can see clearly our body weight and steps. And this is really important if we have body comp goals, to see the average weight for the week. One day doesn't mean anything. The weekly average is what we're looking for with body weight. So this goes all the way through for our year. You can see the month that we're up to is highlighted in yellow. Similar to our daily tracking section, the day we're on is highlighted in yellow. We have events that might be coming up. We have any extra details we need to add, and we have wins. So if there's wins that you've had each week, we can put them in here and things for us to look back on and remember wins that we've had. We've got nutritional interventions we might be focusing on. So we can put like what the focus is, and we can put, more details on it each week that we're aiming to hit that nutritional focus. It could be like, for example, it could be like pomegranate juice, or it could be eating eggs, or it could be eating salmon, things like that we're focusing on each week, and how much we're aiming for, more details below. Exact same thing with lifestyle focuses, exact same thing with supplements that we're trying to hit each week. And then these parts are just giving us a bit more of an overview of some of our habits and nutrition that we might be tracking as well. So that's our overview section there. Next up is our supplement plan. So we can easily see when and which supplements we are taking. You can see we've got empty stomach in the morning, we've got breakfast, lunch, dinner, after dinner, miscellaneous or no timing, and around training. So we can easily put supplements and dosages in here that we're taking at the time to make it really easy for you to just look at and sort of see what you need to be taking. We also have a section here for us to use to know what supplements we have in the cupboard, so that I don't need to be asking you, okay, have you got this supplement? I don't need to ask you that consistently. We can populate this and see what supplements you already have in the cupboard. So then if we need to add one, we can easily just pull it out and be like, okay, bang, we've already got this. Let's start using it. Next section, which is going to be really, really important, is our weekly log. I'll zoom out a little bit here. But this is, starting off, you can see, again, the week we're on, highlighted in yellow. But this section is the one that I find makes or breaks people's results the most, whether or not they fill out the weekly part of their tracker. So if I hide that and simplify it a little bit, we can simplify this to literally just be communications. So let's say each week you're going to come in here and you're going to fill this out. So you'll fill out the client section. So if there's any communications you need, we can keep it to one cell, or we can make it as complex as we need. We can add cells for every single thing that we're trying to track: training, nutrition and supplements, gut and skin health, body composition, life and habits, stress and psychology, sleep, money, blood work and menstrual cycle. We can add more as well if there's anything relevant. So we can hide as many of these, we can add or change as many of these as we need to, or again, we can keep it nice and simple and just have one. Weekly reflection: what was your biggest obstacle? Why? What action steps you're going to take to address it? Don't have to fill this out every single week, but if there is something that comes to mind, then this section can be really handy as well. And then this part is really, really crucial. So we have our mini goals. So you're going to write what mini goal you have for that week coming into either at the end of the week or just before our check-in. You're going to write down what your goals are for the week. You've got sections here to do it. And then as you come in the next week, you can reflect on your past week's mini goals. So let's say for this week, it could have been take body comp photos, and it could have been buy supplements, and it could have been fill out weekly section of tracker. You get the idea. Then if I'm coming into this week here, I can go back and give myself a tick and a cross for the things I did and didn't do. If you didn't achieve your goal, give yourself a reason why. Say why you did it or didn't do it. Helps me help you. And you can then, we can just move it across and say, okay, we're going to do it this week instead. So we've obviously got 5 sections there for goals that we can have, and it's going to give us an adherence for the week, and a rolling adherence for the year. This section, if used well, can accelerate your results significantly. I don't want to underestimate that. Okay, now we get into some of the fun part, the blood work. You don't need to worry too much about this part because more of it's going to be for me to analyze your blood work. But we've essentially taken really complex software and we put it into a spreadsheet. So we can measure all of your blood work ranges now off optimal ranges that are not going to just keep you from dying and disease, which is what conventional ranges are now that doctors use. But we are, and these standard ranges you can see, but we want to optimize. We don't want you to just not die. We want you to perform. We want you to feel good. And there's specific ranges. You can see how different some of these things are to each other. Some of them are similar. Look at platelets. Standard and optimal ranges are very similar. But you can see some of the ranges here are actually quite different. Even just hemoglobin, you can see the difference of what an optimal range versus a standard range is. And yeah, there is a big difference. Like we want to be optimizing things, not just trying to avoid disease. So you will send me your results. Send me your most recent blood test if you haven't already. And every time we have a test, we've got options to add more tests in, I think up to about 10. But every time you send me a test, I will put the value of each test in here. So let's say your hemoglobin was 143, and you can see that it starts to populate here. Let's say your next test was 150. And you can see that we can start to see over here where you are on the optimal ranges really easily. Whether we're in range, whether we're out of range, high, low, close. And we've got a lot of markers. We're obviously not going to use them all every single time, but we've got lots of options here. And we've also got the option to add more in. So if there's any specific ones that we do want to get tested that for some reason aren't in here, we can easily add these in. We can change it based on male and female. You'll see some of the ranges change here. And we've got standard, international, or conventional ranges based on where we're getting our bloods done. So that's a really cool, really, really valuable section. Next up, progress photos. I have this in my app currently, but we can choose to either do it in the app or do it on here, whichever you'd prefer, whichever's easier. But we've got our front, back, and side, and I just like relaxed. We have the option to do flexing as well, but I think relaxed works better for most people. It's easier. You don't have to think too much. We can do it every week. We can do it, monthly. I like to do it more so at the end of each training cycle, but this will differ person to person. And just a few notes here on taking photos. So have a read through this before you do your photos, but you can see here, like we want to have the full body in frame. So we want to have not just the upper body, but the lower body as well. And we don't want to be using too many clothes. Like obviously don't feel uncomfortable in what you're taking the photo in, but the more of your skin that we can see, the better chance we're going to be able to see the results that we're getting. Take photos consistent time of day and consistent day of the week, or of the month, like whichever we're using. Especially for females, your body will change a little bit depending on your cycle. And use the same spot with the same lighting. Really important there as well. And ask if you're unsure. So that's a body comp photos section. You can see we've got a lot of weeks there. Client summary. This is more for me, looking at your goals, looking at your reasons as to why you want to achieve your goals and what your goals actually are, and just a bit of information about you. So you don't need to worry too much about this section. I will be using it more than you will. So yeah, action tasks, as I will tell you in our first call. This section is basically just one-off tasks that you can complete that will give you as much of a head start as possible for coaching and for health and for performance. So there'll be a few tasks that we run through initially, like how to use the tracker, watching the expectations agreement and signing it, watching and signing the terms and conditions. If we struggle with time management, we've got a Google Calendar video in here that my mentor made. Reminders for daily sections, weekly sections, the training app, and then they're the initial ones. And then from there, we can start to work through some of the other ones as well. So these are our one-off tasks that will bring us the most amount of success. You click on here, complete working on not started, priority, in calendar, yes or no, date started, date completed. KPI charts is just a measure of our KPIs. So again, you don't need to worry too much about this, but it can be an easy way for us to see on a nice chart how things are improving. Then another section that has had a massive upgrade. So instead of your nutrition and tracker being separate, we now have them all together. We've got our meal plan builder. So here we can easily see your details, but then we can also see if we have your body fat percentage. Even if we don't, we can start to see and calculate roughly what your BMR might look like. So how many calories you burn at rest. We can also put in things like flexible calories if we want them, and we can set macro goals. But then the part that got a big upgrade are the next couple sections, the parts. So our nutrition tracker is off its head. It's so sick. It basically gives us a separate meal plan for every single day of the week, 5 different meals. It gives us the opportunity to copy meal plans across certain days if we want up here. It shows us the macros for every single day. But probably the coolest part is it actually gives us our micronutrients. And this is really important again, because we're at the point where, and probably one of the reasons we're working together is because you want to optimize and perform. You don't just want to be like the rest of the population, which is pretty unhealthy. So that's where micronutrients are really important. And we can see here, these are based on SDTs, not RDIs. SDT is standard dietary targets. So standard daily targets. Basically, we're moving more away from how much do we need to eat of this nutrient to minimize disease, and we're moving towards how much of this do we need to feel good, perform well, and just be, I suppose, more optimal. We've also got upper limits here. So these are based off research and tell us how much of each nutrient we can probably eat on a long-term basis before we might start to actually see negative side effects of eating too much. So I suppose this is the minimum and this is the maximum. And then we see here how much of the goal we've achieved, but it's also going to tell us if we're getting too close to the upper limit. And we also have the opportunity here to put in how much of it we're getting from supplements. So really, like, a lot to go through here, but you don't need to worry too much about this because I'm going to be the one that's going to be making sure that this is up to scratch. You just need to follow the meal plan and just eat what we're talking about. We also have a really easy way to substitute foods if we want for the same amount of calories. And if we're missing out on a nutrient, we can go in here and see, let's say, you might be low on calcium. We can see from here what the highest food sources of calcium are within our tracker. And you can see the top 20 foods and how much they're going to give us per 100 grams. But we can also see how much calories to meet the calcium RDI we would need. And that's just going to tell us so that, we can easily say, okay, well, we've only got 500 calories left. How much of it do we actually need to stay under our calories or stay within our calories but actually hit the goal that we want. So heaps on here that we can play around with. The easiest section for you to then look at once we have populated the meal plan is the nutrition section is the meal plan section. So you can really easily see in here what you're eating in each meal. So this will populate from the nutrition section. So if I put in here, let's just go oats, you can see there, and let's say 100 grams of oats. This is going to pull across to here. So you can easily see what is in each meal for every single day of the week. And because meal plan 1 for this part is on for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, that's going to populate across all 4. You can obviously easily see that for all 5 meals, for all 7 days of the week. We've also got miscellaneous things we might add just to have once a week. And we've also got the supplements that we're taking. So this is one that you can easily, the easiest way that I've found for this is to print this out or screenshot it and have it somewhere, like print it out, put it on your fridge. Like that's the easiest one that you can then you don't have to go into your tracker every time you want to see what your next meal is. It just makes it super simple for you to know what you're going to be eating, every day, every week. The other cool thing that this does is comes up with a shopping list. So this is basically going to calculate what you're having in your meal plans and times it by however many times you're eating it. So for oats, we were having 100 grams 4 times a week. And so it would come up with oats and 400 grams, and that's what you need for the week. So you can then really easily see how much of each food you actually need to buy as well. You can add notes, and you can see the macros of each meal. Another great idea that you could use is you could literally screenshot this and put it into AI and tell it to find you the foods from the supermarket that you might need to make sure that you've got enough of these. That would be a really simple way as well. And something I might work on and build out is a integration where it can pull this directly for you and add it to your Woolies shopping app or whatever you use to do the shopping. So, plenty of possibilities here, but absolute basic. It just tells you how much of each you need for the week to do shopping. Food database has gone from 450 foods to over 6,000. So we have got a lot of food here. This is more like MyFitnessPal and the amount of foods in there, but a lot better because it's telling us, it's a lot more accurate. It's telling us the nutrients in each meal. It's telling us it's a lot more accurate on the calories and the macros of each meal. Whereas things like MyFitnessPal can be a little bit up and down. Last 2 to finish, the programming. Performance testing, which for my athletes is going to be really, really cool, where we can actually just super easily see how are we progressing. Like at the end of the day with your performance, that's what you want to know is, am I getting faster, more powerful, fitter, stronger? And we can see that super easily in here. Speed and acceleration, jumping and explosive power, strength, aerobic endurance. We also have the ability to change these tests. So if we feel like we need to, or if there's any tests that aren't in here that we want to add in, can chuck whatever we need to in here that might be relevant to you or your sport. And we can get these nice graphs out as well that are going to show us improvement over time. So that's a cool section that we can measure things with. We've got this opportunity to add dates in here as well. And then most likely your programming will be on the training app. But if you don't like the app or we don't want to use it, we want everything in the one spot, we also have the training program, which we can program for you on the spreadsheet. So that's also another option for you. Probably allows for a little bit more nuance and flexibility from set to set and from each session. But for ease of use, I prefer the training app. So if you specifically want this over the training app, please let me know. We can easily use it, but for most people, the training app is going to be easier to use. So that's the tracker. I hope you understand it from there. If there's anything that you're unsure about, you can rewatch the video. If you still don't know, please message me. There's obviously a lot to go through here, but we will make it as simple as possible. You know, at the end of the day, you just need to fill out this section daily and you need to fill out this section weekly. And the rest of it is kind of a bit more just going in the background for you. And they're just sections you'll come and go from. So it feels like a lot, but once you simplify it to that, it's like do your daily section, do your weekly section. That takes care of probably 80 to 90% of it. As I said, if you have any more questions, please let me know. But yeah, I think this tool is going to be unbelievable for helping you get the best results you possibly can and just become a weapon.